Morning YouTube, a very sleepy Rick the Welder here on day 2 of Black Betty's stereo install. Much like a kid on Christmas, I had to rush downstairs early and check out all my new toys. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys about what led up to the decision to replace this unit, along with a good comparison between the two radios. Back when I purchased this radio, cost was the deciding factor for the Custom Autosound over the Retrosound. I believe this cost me about $189 US on eBay at the time, and unfortunately the old saying is true that you do get what you pay for. Although it's not a bad radio, it's not quite what I was expecting. What I had found is when I installed it, it had a bit of a shallow kind of tinny sound, very similar to like the late 70s, early 80s AC Delco radios. So if you're doing a restoration and you want things to sound as authentic as possible, then the Custom Autosound would be an awesome choice. It does have a very kind of crisp, vintage sound of a radio. The problem is I wanted something a little bit more modern. So I started out with the 4 cab speakers connected directly to the radio. And when I wasn't too happy with the way that sounded, I was thinking maybe the radio itself was underpowered. So I installed an amplifier and ran them off of that instead. Unfortunately, it just made the poor sound quality louder. Now, because this was a brand new radio, I thought that the speakers and the amplifier were to blame because there were some used components that I pulled out of a car that I had sold previously. So a buddy of mine came over this winter and we were talking about stereo options, and he blamed the Custom Autosound for the problem. So what we did to test it is got an old single DIN radio off a shelf in the garage, disconnected the RCA cables from this one, plugged it into this one, and the sound quality improved dramatically. And keep in mind, this radio is used and was manufactured in 2006, but we were using the same cables, same amplifier, same speakers. The only thing different was where the amplifier was getting its signal from. So that led me to the decision to replace this unit with something else. Problem is, what do I replace it with? There's a couple of different options out there. One obviously being the Retrosound or the Custom Autosound, like a post-style radio for an uncut dash. Another option that's quite popular is to get a modern single DIN radio and mount it in something like the glove box or under the seat and have a remote controller to operate the functions. And the Custom Autosound could stay installed in the dash to kind of complete that retro look that I'm going for with the truck. So the problem is, because space is such a premium in that truck, I wanted every component in there to work. I didn't want a dead radio sitting in the dash or a new style radio that now I don't have a glove box or it's taking up space under the seat, which is very limited to begin with. So I decided to take a bit of a gamble on the Retrosound, and I'm not disappointed. I want to give you guys a few numbers about the radios in front of me here. So first off, they're all 4-channel units. The single DIN is a JVC KDR 600. It is rated at 50 watts per channel. The Custom Autosound deck is rated at 75 watts per channel. And surprisingly, the Retrosound radio is rated at only 25 watts per channel. Although this unit is used, I think it gives a good comparison and representation as a single DIN radio that you could go out and buy brand new in the store. So if we're looking at this being a 10 on the scale, I would say by comparison, the Custom Autosound was a 5 and the Retrosound was an 8. What I found is the sound quality between these two radios were almost identical. This radio did sound a little bit better, but the sound quality on the Retrosound was quite a bit richer, quite a bit deeper than the Custom Autosound.
Old and busted. New hotness.
The only real noticeable difference between these two is that the JVC could get to a slightly higher volume level, but again, the sound quality was almost identical. As far as features go, the old Custom Autosound and the new Retrosound are very similar. They both have auxiliary inputs, USB, RCA out, etc. The cool thing is that you can connect your phone to the Retrosound via Bluetooth. Now, again, $189 radio, $450 radio. So there is quite a bit of a difference there in terms of price, and so therefore this would be expected to have more features. So a big thanks to Gary and the folks at CIP1 for importing these radios. Gary ordered me up some extra replacement knobs, kind of a bit of a retro throwback to the originals. I'm really looking forward to installing this thing. I hope you guys will tune in for the next video. Again, feel free to drop a comment. You know, let me know if there's something specific that you guys want to see. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. I'm going to grab myself some breakfast and let's start putting this stuff in the truck.